Have you ever wondered why Western political systems have become corrupt and oppressive? Welcome to our exploration of political ponerology, the study of evil in politics. Ponerology focuses on how psychopathy infiltrates political systems, and why certain individuals with psychopathic traits rise to power. These individuals manipulate social dynamics to maintain control. Andrzej Łobaczewski was a Polish psychiatrist who developed the concept of political ponerology, which he defined as the study of the genesis and nature of political evil. Łobaczewski's research was suppressed in his home country for many years. Despite this, his work gained recognition internationally. Today, political ponerology helps us understand the dark side of politics. It reveals how psychopathic leaders exploit societal weaknesses. Understanding political ponerology allows us to assess the coercive mechanisms used by our politicians to control us and gain our consent. It empowers us to recognize and resist manipulative tactics. Join us as we delve deeper into this critical field of study. Political ponerology, a term coined by the Polish psychiatrist Andrzej Łobaczewski, refers to the study of the nature of evil in politics. The term is derived from the Greek word poneros, meaning evil. Łobaczewski focused on understanding how pathological individuals, particularly those with psychopathic traits, infiltrate and corrupt political systems, leading to the emergence of totalitarian regimes and widespread societal harm, war and genocide. Łobaczewski's interest in this field was deeply personal. He lived through the Nazi occupation of Poland and the subsequent communist regime, which profoundly influenced his understanding of political systems and their susceptibility to pathological influences. His education in psychology and psychiatry, particularly under the tutelage of Professor Eugene Aziski at Jagiellonian University, provided the scientific foundation for his theories. Łobaczewski's approach combined psychology, sociology, philosophy, and history to create a comprehensive framework for understanding political evil. He emphasized the importance of developing precise scientific terminology to describe the phenomena associated with ponerogenesis, which is the emergence of evil within human systems. This includes identifying the characteristics of pathological individuals, and understanding the mechanisms by which they gain influence and power. Ponerology thus relates closely to political psychology because it examines how individuals with psychopathic disorders can influence and corrupt political systems. Łobaczewski argues that these individuals, whom he calls essential psychopaths, infiltrate institutions and governments, perverting morals and social values to create what he calls a pathocracy, that is, a system of government dominated by psychopaths. As for the origin of political evil, Łobaczewski tells us that societies experienced cycles of happy times and unhappy times. Happy times consist of the following: there is peace and prosperity, especially for the privileged classes. A sense of law and order pervades society. There is the suppression of advanced psychological knowledge about psychopathological influence within structures of power. The privileged classes enjoy prosperity, often premised on the oppression or exploitation of others. Happy times brings about the conditions for unhappy times. There is the use of conversive thinking by the privileged to block out inconvenient truths or the voice of conscience. There is a rise in egotism and emotionalism among the privileged classes. There is the spread of hysteria, emotionalism, egotism, and conversive thinking across society over several generations. And there is the gradual loss of the ability to differentiate between psychologically healthy and pathological individuals. This leads to the acceptance of behavior of individuals with slight brain tissue damage, called characteropaths, as normal. But what does Łobaczewski mean by conversive thinking? It refers to a cognitive distortion employed by individuals in privileged positions to rationalize their actions and maintain their status, often at the expense of others. This involves altering the outcome of reasoning processes to arrive at more convenient conclusions, effectively negating uncomfortable truths or moral dilemmas. Such rationalization is characterized by first, egotism, or a heightened sense of self-importance that leads individuals to prioritize their interests over ethical considerations. And, second, by emotionalism, or an over-reliance on emotions rather than rational thought, which clouds judgment and fosters irrational beliefs. As conversive thinking spreads through society, it contributes to a collective national hysteria, where the ability to discern healthy from pathological behaviors diminishes. This phenomenon then leads to the normalization of harmful behaviors, particularly those exhibited by individuals with psychopathic traits, who may ascend to positions of power during periods of societal unrest. By national hysteria, Łobaczewski means the cyclical phenomenon in societies where emotional excess, irrationality, and egotism prevail, leading to a collective inability to discern healthy behavior from pathological behavior. This concept is rooted in the idea that societies oscillate between happy times and unhappy times, with each phase influencing the psychological health of the populace. National hysteria is a natural cycle, forming a sine wave approximately every 200 years. During periods of prosperity, the privileged classes often suppress advanced psychological knowledge, leading to a societal environment characterized by conversive thinking, where inconvenient truths are ignored in favor of more palatable narratives. This emotionalism and egotism can spread across generations, resulting in a societal acceptance of pathological behaviors as normal. As societies become increasingly hysterical, they lose the ability to differentiate between psychologically healthy individuals and those with psychopathological traits. This deterioration can lead to the rise of spellbinders, individuals with significant egotistical tendencies who exploit the emotional climate to gain power. Such dynamics culminate in a pathocracy, where individuals with psychopathic traits dominate political and social institutions, often leading to totalitarian regimes. As for unhappy times, Łobaczewski explains these as the rise of pathological individuals, wherein people with personality disorders, especially psychopaths, are drawn to power and become more influential in society. There is societal hysteria, that is an increase in emotionalism, egotism, and conversive thinking, which is the changing of reasoning outcomes to more convenient ones, spreads across society over generations. In unhappy times, there is the loss of discernment, people become less able to differentiate between psychologically healthy and pathological individuals. There is the normalization of deviant behavior, the actions of individuals with slight brain tissue damage, characteropaths, become accepted as normal, paving the way for those with more severe genetic deviations. There is the emergence of spellbinders, at the peak of societal hysteria, charismatic but pathologically egotistical leaders rise to power. These spellbinders use ideological masks, that is they hide behind belief systems to gain power, using any ideology as a cover for their true nature. Then, comes pathocracy formation, in that a network of psychopaths gradually begins to dominate, leading to a totalitarian state characterized by a government turned against its own people. This brings about social turmoil. Unhappy times are marked by war, famine, terrorism, financial collapse, sickness, and despair. Finally, in unhappy times, there is increased information control and propaganda. Leaders use these tactics to create fear, disarray, and division in society. Then, comes pathocracy formation, in that a network of psychopaths gradually begins to dominate in positions of power. They use collective symbols about the homeland, God, the nation, to manipulate the masses and psychologically condition them to accept what is not real and what is not normal. In all this, there is the increased use of information control, the spread of polarizing ideology and propaganda, the purpose of which is to generate fear, disarray, confusion and division in society, conditions that force people to look for solutions, which are, of course, offered by the Ponerogenic leader. And the people respond to this in two ways: either they enter a free state or they succumb to the Stockholm Syndrome, which is loyalty to oppressors. In the free state, an individual becomes immobilized or stuck when faced with overwhelming stress or perceived danger. In a fully developed pathocracy, the government turns against its own people, leading to totalitarianism, which is the total control over society, including human memory and thought. Political corruption, which is the manifestation of evil in government systems, where officials abuse their power to gain illegitimate advantages, creates networks of individuals who protect each other and work to increase their influence and accumulate power. That is the deep state. These networks resist reforms or changes that threaten their position of power, even if these changes would benefit the party or society at large. Therefore, the party system is the ideal environment for evil, as it is easily peopled by psychopaths and narcissists, who acquire power and influence. These individuals are often skilled at manipulation and can hide their true intentions behind altruistic ideologies or rousing speeches. Such psychopaths, who themselves are incompetent, then quickly remove those with greater talent or skills, in order to maintain their own status. And, thus, these pathological individuals create power dynamics that favor loyalty over competence. Thus, corruption becomes a normalized and systematic practice within political parties and becomes embedded in party structures, which then function more as power structures than as representations of citizens' interests. Knowledge about Ponerology leads to increased media consumption, as citizens seek more information to better understand political dynamics. But, paradoxically, this in turn results, as Łobaczewski observes, in less negative and more moderate perceptions of politicians, parties, and politics, especially among those who use the media the most. In this way, Ponerology offers a precise framework for understanding what is happening in the West today, and why Western politicians, of all stripes, say the things the way they do, and do the things that they do.